So when you think of Nepal, what's the first image that comes to mind? For most of us, it's probably the towering Himalayas, ancient temples, a land steeped in tradition. And while that's absolutely true, it's no longer the complete picture. A whole new story is being written there, one of technological innovation creating a modern economic frontier. You see, the reality on the ground, especially in places like Kathmandu, is increasingly about laptops, innovators, and technology. There's this quiet revolution happening, led by entrepreneurs who are building the country's future, not with ice axes and ropes, but with code and capital.
And look, this isn't just a vibe or a feeling, it's a powerful trend you can see in the numbers. We're talking about going from just around 300 registered startups back in 2015 to more than 1,500 by 2023. And this year, something big happened. The government finally put its weight behind this movement with a formal startup support policy, including a $7.5 million loan program. That's a huge shift from just talk to real, tangible action.
1,700. That's the number of young, talented people who leave Nepal every single day to find work somewhere else. So, for all this incredible momentum, there's this formidable challenge, a massive brain drain. This creates this central tension in Nepal's economic story. It's really a race between building opportunity at home and losing the very people who could build it.
So, let's dive into the first key area where this transformation is happening: education. This is where innovators are using technology to tackle some really fundamental national challenges.
You see, the core problem is systemic. For decades, you've had these huge geographical barriers and a real shortage of qualified teachers. The result? A massive educational gap that leaves so many students behind. But that gap? Well, that's exactly the opportunity that EdTech startups are now jumping into.
And you really can't talk about this without talking about Krishna Prasad Bhandari, the founder of Guruba. He started out as this incredibly charismatic teacher, putting high-quality lessons up on YouTube for free. And he just blew up. He became a digital phenomenon, basically a trusted guide for hundreds of thousands of students trying to pass these life-changing exams. What Guruba's success really proves is this unique business model that works so well in Nepal's culture. It's this idea of turning social capital, that's respect, community trust, reputation, and converting it directly into a scalable digital business. He literally built a brand on his identity as an educator, and now others are starting to copy that playbook in other fields.
All right, next up, let's turn to healthcare, because here, innovation wasn't a gradual process. It was a national crisis that became a powerful catalyst for change.
You know, before 2020, health tech in Nepal was pretty niche. Then the COVID-19 pandemic hit, and suddenly all the existing gaps in the healthcare system, especially between the cities and rural areas, were just thrown into the spotlight. The demand for remote contactless services, telemedicine, online pharmacies, it didn't just grow, it exploded overnight.
And in that moment of chaos, two very different strategies emerged. On one side, you have a company like Wisyak. They're playing the long game, deep tech, using AI to help doctors and hospitals make better decisions. It's a complex, VC-backed model. But on the other side, you have GV. They just timed the market perfectly with a super user-friendly e-pharmacy. They became an essential service during lockdowns and grew at an absolutely unbelievable pace.
So, you might be asking, where did all this specialized talent come from? Well, for years, global medtech companies have been setting up engineering centers in Nepal mainly to cut costs. But here's the powerful, unintended side effect. They accidentally created a highly skilled local workforce. And now those engineers are leaving the outsourcing hubs to build their own startups, creating this incredible outsourcing to innovation pipeline.
Okay, from healthcare, let's move to the environment. Here, we find a movement born from a crisis you can literally see and smell, where entrepreneurs are asking a really tough question. Can you build a profitable business while also trying to save the planet? And the problem is impossible to ignore. In the Kathmandu Valley alone, they produce about 1,200 tons of solid waste every single day, and a lot of it just isn't managed properly. This crisis is exactly what has given rise to a new generation of what you might call ecopreneurs. Let me give you two fantastic examples. First, Khaleesi. Now, it's not a trash company, it's a digital platform. It connects households directly with informal waste collectors. This has increased the collectors' income by over 30%, and maybe just as importantly, it's restored a sense of dignity to their work. Then you've got Leaf Plus. They take fallen leaves, something that was considered waste, and turn them into biodegradable tableware, a direct challenge to single-use plastics. And this points to another really cool innovation model you see in Nepal. Instead of just trying to import ideas from Silicon Valley, these startups are fusing tradition with technology.
Khalasi digitized the century-old practice of informal waste collection. Leaf Plus modernized the tradition of using leaf plates. They're building on what's already there, just making it more efficient and scalable.
But here's the catch. Despite how innovative they are, these green startups really struggle to get investment. As you can see here, the venture capital in Nepal is flowing into the sectors that promise high, fast returns, like IT and health. Green and social ventures, well, they have slower growth cycles and missions that go beyond just profit, so they're often left behind. And that highlights a really critical gap in the funding ecosystem.
So, where does that leave us? To really understand Nepal's potential, we need to drop a clear balance sheet, look at the ecosystem's strengths and its weaknesses.
And on the asset side, the picture is pretty bright. The human capital is incredible. You've got this generation of passionate, educated, globally minded founders. You now have formal government support, there's a growing network of incubators and accelerators, and the private equity market is slowly but surely maturing. These are all powerful drivers for growth.
But the liabilities are just as significant. There's still a major funding gap, especially for those early-stage companies and the impact-focused ones we just talked about. Bureaucracy is still a huge hurdle, and of course, that persistent brain drain threatens to undermine every bit of progress that's being made. So, the foundations of a vibrant, knowledge-based economy are clearly being laid by these remarkable innovators. But their success, all of this progress, it brings us to the single most important question for Nepal's next decade. Can the country's infrastructure, its funding, its policies, its institutions, can it all grow as fast as the ambition of its entrepreneurs? The answer to that question will define the future of the nation.